Hi everyone, it's Marie here for Lottie Loves Paper. So just quickly before we start, this video classes as an advertisement. So today I am playing with Vicki Boutin Color Study, this lovely cut file from Peartree Cutfiles, and I am doing this week's sketch from Lottie Loves Paper's 2021 sketches. So there's a weekly sketch that goes up into the Lottie Loves Paper group, and you have a week to create a layout using that sketch and pop it into the associated album. And then once a month, I think there is a prize draw for £10 for a voucher for the shop. So I'm playing along with this beautiful circle kind of circles pattern today. What you've just seen me do is clear gesso a white sheet of cardstock. Now, I know lots and lots of people love the foundations paper, and the foundations paper is fantastic. Either the Vicki Boutin foundations paper or the basil marshmallow paper. They're both much thicker and they're great for mixed media. I love the fact that they are thicker, but prefer to use standard white cardstock simply because it's whiter, and I have a bit of a thing about cream. I do prefer a whiter cardstock. So I have double gessoed. Now this was a tip that one of my friends gave me, one of my scrappy friends, was to double gesso my paper rather than just single gessoing. And actually I've got much better results. I was having terrible problems with getting lines in the gesso, and then when I put the mixed media on top, although they weren't visible maybe to start with, they were really visible once I got my colours on top and my actual mixed media on top. You can see the lines. So this has worked much better. Really thin coat of gesso, and a really so you can scrape it on and scrape it back off again, and I did that twice, and then I've let it dry. So my paper is all prepared. The gesso, just in case you don't know, the gesso allows the whatever medium you're putting on top of it to move around on the paper without soaking in, and it allows like slightly longer for the media to dry, and it doesn't kind of soak in and then show those fibres up in the paper either. So I do like to gesso, especially with what I'm using today. So I'm playing with the new Vicki Boutin gel crayons. They are so soft and creamy, and they go on to, well, you've seen me do a couple of things here. I've scribbled them onto my glass mat. I have scribbled them around the rim of that little bowl there that I'm using as my kind of guide to create these circles, and I've also drawn directly onto the page with them. Now I wouldn't do that if my page hadn't been gessoed. I've made that mistake before. If you draw on the page without doing the gessoing first, it does soak in and is much harder to move around and play with. So this works well because it has been gessoed. So I've done a few different things there to get this kind of circle. I've wet the page a little bit, I've drawn around the rim of the bowl, and then I've used that as a guide to add more colour. These are quite light in colour, these gel crayons. They look like they're going to be really heavily pigmented, and whilst they are, they also give quite a light impression. So I found what I've ended up doing is doing one ring and then going back in and adding more colour and back in and adding more colour, kind of building it up. Now I actually think that's really good for anyone who might be a little bit worried about mixed media and not having done it before, or worried about getting the wrong colour on the page. This is fabulous because you get a lovely light colour to start with, and then, like I say, you can build it up, make it darker and make it darker and make it darker as you go along. Now, this was my original idea, to just do the 6 circles in 6 different really bright primary colours that go so beautifully with the Colour Study collection. However, what I end up doing is completely changing this because I'm not happy with the circles. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Olympic rings, and it just wasn't looking quite right. I wasn't quite happy with it, so I decided to scribble in the middle directly onto the cardstock with those gel crayons. Now I had my fingers crossed at this point that this was going to work and I wasn't going to end up with kind of like a really messy looking spiral, and it worked perfectly. And because the page was gessoed, I was able to just move that colour around and fill in those circles. Much happier with how that is looking. I do go back in a little bit later with a bit more orange. The orange dries quite light coloured, and I wanted it just to be a little bit darker. So I've pulled out this beautiful sheet of paper from the collection, from the Colour Study collection, and I'm going to use that with this because this is circles as well. Kind of ties in nicely with the theme of the layout, which is all circles. And I've stuck on my cut file there. It's Beautiful Life. I'm now just gutting the cardstock because I've decided I want to use this as a border as well for the main page. So I'm just going to quickly cut off as much and save as much of that cardstock as I can. And now I'm going to use my little cutter bee scissors to fussy cut around the edge of the cut file, so that obviously we can see, so it's all beautifully cut out. Now I've tried to position the cut file on the page so that the colours match with the circles as best they can. Obviously I've got 6 circles, I couldn't get all the colours into my cut file. I could have split it up and done each letter individually. I decided I didn't want to do that. I decided I wanted to keep the cut file just mainly sort of greens, blues, purples, and I like the way that looks, and the idea is it's just going to go slightly lower down on, sort of on the bottom half of that page there. Just need to use my heat tool. I did add a little bit more orange onto there, and it wasn't quite dry. Now what I'm going to do is just take a 1/4 inch off around the outside of the this page. Now trimming this was a nightmare because it's so wobbly. It wouldn't sit still on my trimmer, so I'm not quite sure it's exactly straight, but it will do. And there's that piece of cardstock that I gutted. So like I say, just using that as the border. Now using my scissors to go around the edge and distress the edges of that white cardstock. One of the reasons I'm doing that, I love a distressed edge, really enjoying distressing edges at the moment. But one of the reasons I'm doing it is because it might not be quite straight. And also because the cardstock, the white is so wobbly, I was finding it really, really tricky to try and get on flat. So that just kind of helps with the whole it's all wobbly look. As I was distressing the edge, I accidentally ripped a bit of the edge. So that kind of gave way to me making 4 little tears, 1 on each side, and stapling those down just to give an extra little feature around the outside. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing some tone on tone embellishments with some stars. Now these aren't from the Colour Study collection, these are from the previous collection, which, please excuse me, I cannot remember the name of. I think, is it Let's Wander? Was it Let's Wander? Anyway, it was the one with all the stars. And there was a beautiful sheet of cardstock stars, and then there was a vellum sheet of stars that has gold accents on, so you can just see those slightly there. So I've fussy cut loads of those, and I've just popped those around tone on the circles that I've created, very similar to the sketch. And there were some tags on one of the tag cut apart sheets that I absolutely love, the green one especially, because it says this date is fabulous, and I just wanted that underneath my photo. And I've decided to tuck an extra tag under there so there's a bit of layering going on, so those two can sit just there. And just playing around with a few of the stars. I think I had a bigger star on, which I've now taken off. It just felt a little bit too large on there. And I love that happiness right here label as well. Now it's currently on the middle of the cut file, but I do move that. So I've just popped some adhesive foam onto the back of my photograph, which has already been cut out as a circle, and then mounted onto a piece of the green cardstock from the collection. And I'm now just popping some adhesive foam on the back of my cut file, because I do love dimension on my pages. I don't like them. And also, when you've got such a wobbly page as this one is, dimension and foam really help get things to stick down correctly when you've got kind of wobbly bits all over. So I've had to take a bit of the foam off the back of the photograph because I forgot that they were going to overlap. so the foam is already on the back of the Cutfile. It didn't need foam on that part of the photograph as well. So I've stuck the tags onto the back of the photo just with double-sided sticky tape, and I've attached that there. Now I'm just going to get a couple of pieces of thread. These are just cheap like cross-stitch threads, and I'm just going to put a piece of each into the tags. I'm trying to make the thread look natural and not forced, but I do also want it kind of tucked in so it stays put. So I've popped that little, that's from the cut apart sheet as well, that happiness right here. I fussy cut that one and popped it there, and popped a couple of little staples in the end of it just to make it look, just to give it a bit more interest. I found some of those beautiful gold arrows. These are the cardstock stickers. Then I've decided to put those on. And then that one says, you make the world more colourful. I found a couple more of those arrows, so decided to do them kind of all the way round to really draw the attention to the photo. And those beautiful butterflies have like got gold accents on them, but they're also iridescent. I've put a little dimensional square, foam square underneath each wing, and then stuck the body down directly to the page, again just to make it look like the wings are lifting. So now I'm just sticking down those vellum little stars and the cardstock ones as well. I am using the dimensional squares there, the little foam squares, and you can see them just slightly through the vellum stars. However, I couldn't really come up with another solution. I think I need to get some of that silicone glue that's got some dimension on. I think I've seen Monique use some of that, and I really fancy having the ability to do that with a bit more dimension without having to use those foam squares. But for now they will do absolutely fine, and I'm not concerned. So just making sure everything's stuck down. I think in a minute I'll pick the sheet up just to make sure everything is actually stuck and I haven't missed anything. Just finding the dot from the eye for its. I don't bother with the one on live because there's a little star there instead, which sort of sits there perfectly. Now I'm just having a look through the rest of the cardstock stickers again, and I've also got the sticker book. So I'm just pulling all the stickers out of the sticker book to have a look and see what I like. And I find these little tiny gold dots on one of them, and I think, oh, they look perfect. And I'm going to use a few of those in each one of my coloured circles on my background. I love that little clip, that little like bulldog clip, so I decided to use that on there. And then I find this gorgeous little camera that just sits perfectly. I'm now just going to add the final few finishing touches. So I've chosen a few of the Peartree pieces rainbows, which I'm going to attach with some glossy accents. I'm going to put 3 of those on, one tucked above the title, one behind the photo, and one down at the bottom there. And then the very last touch are 2 of the Peartree pieces glitter felt hearts. So I've got one in green and I've got one in blue, and they're just going to sit there on that tag as well. And there it is, there's my finished layout. I have thoroughly enjoyed making this and I absolutely adore this sketch. So do head on over to Lottie Loves Papers Facebook group to join in. There's this sketch and there's a whole load more that have already been released throughout the year this year. So although you can't use those to enter for the prize, you can still play along and use them as some fabulous inspiration. Colour Study is also still available in the Lottie Loves Paper shop now, and there's a spring sale on as well. So yeah, head on over there. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.